Imagine this: a man who never tasted death. No final breath, no grave, no farewell. In a single moment he was lifted, taken alive into the very courts of heaven. That man was Enoch, and what he witnessed in that place was so overwhelming, so otherworldly, that for centuries it remained hidden, whispered only in fragments, preserved in the mysterious book of Enoch. Picture the scene. A sky not of blue, but of fire and crystal, stretching endlessly. Thrones of light rising higher than mountains, rivers of blazing flame flowing from their feet, and at the edges of this vision, beings unlike anything on earth, fallen angels chained in darkness, condemned until the final judgment, towers of glory too radiant to describe. Enoch stood in the center of it all, trembling, seeing what few mortals were ever allowed to see. But here is the question: why him? Why was Enoch chosen to walk past the veil of the living into the secrets of heaven? And what did he see there that was so dangerous, so powerful, that the text carrying his testimony was labeled forbidden, cast aside from the canon of Scripture? This is not just an ancient curiosity. The visions of Enoch may unlock mysteries tied to prophecy, to the end of days, and even to the unseen battle still shaping our world right now. Stay with me, because in the next moments we will step into forbidden territory, tracing Enoch's footsteps into eternity itself. And we'll confront the question no one has ever answered: what did he witness in heaven while still alive? Before we dive deeper into the visions themselves, we need to understand the man at the center of this mystery: Enoch. Enoch lived thousands of years ago, in the earliest days of humanity, just 7 generations after Adam. That alone gives him a unique place in history. He wasn't a distant figure from Israel's later prophets, but a man who walked in the shadow of Eden itself. He was the great-grandfather of Noah, the one who would one day survive the flood. This means Enoch lived in an age when the earth was already corrupted, when giants and fallen angels walked among men. His world was not so far from paradise, yet already deeply scarred by rebellion. But here's what sets him apart. The Bible tells us simply that Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more because God took him. No warning, no grave, no death, just taken. Throughout all of Scripture, only 2 men share this fate: Enoch and, many generations later, the prophet Elijah. Both men were chosen for reasons beyond our full understanding. Both were carried alive into the heavenly realm. Now here's where the mystery deepens. The visions Enoch recorded in his writings, the so-called Book of Enoch, did not become part of the Bible most people know today. In fact, the text was deliberately set aside, labeled forbidden, and eventually vanished from Western Christianity for nearly 2,000 years. Only in Ethiopia, hidden within their ancient traditions, was it preserved. Think about that. A book quoted in the New Testament itself, a book read by the early church, was suddenly locked away, almost erased. Why? Why was this voice silenced? If it truly carries glimpses of heaven, was it too dangerous, too revealing? Did it tell us something humanity was not meant to see? And yet, fragments survived. And within them, Enoch describes visions that stretch far beyond anything we encounter in the familiar scriptures: thrones of fire, angelic watchers bound in chains, secrets of the stars, and even glimpses of the coming judgment. Which forces us to ask, if this book was hidden, what truth was the world not supposed to know? The scriptures tell us in just a few haunting words: and Enoch walked with God, and he was no more because God took him. But what does that mean? Imagine the stillness of an ordinary day suddenly breaking. Enoch, surrounded by the corruption of a world sliding into chaos, was suddenly lifted from the earth. No sickness, no fading breath, no final goodbyes. One moment he was there among men, the next he was in the grip of eternity. Ancient writings say angels were sent as escorts, radiant beings of unearthly power. They came like lightning across the sky, their voices thundering like rushing waters. Enoch was not carried by his own strength. He was seized, drawn upward, as though heaven itself had stretched down its hand to claim him. And then the journey began. The first realm he entered was unlike anything on earth, brighter than the sun, yet not blinding. Here the air was alive with sound, songs of countless angelic hosts, harmonies that no human tongue could repeat. Yet even in this glory, Enoch felt the weight of fear, for the angels who accompanied him warned, "You are about to see things no man should see." As he rose higher, he passed through a second realm. This was no longer only light, it was fire. Walls of flame surrounded him, yet they did not burn him. Great beings, too radiant to look upon directly, stood like guardians, their eyes flashing like torches. Here he was, shown the separation between the holy and the corrupted, between the loyal angels and those who had fallen. The contrast was clear. Earth was filled with rebellion, violence, and sin, but this realm pulsed with absolute order and purity. Still higher, he was taken into a third realm. Here the terror grew. He saw prisons of darkness where angels, the watchers who had descended to corrupt mankind, were bound in chains of fire, locked away until the day of judgment. Their cries echoed like thunder, and Enoch trembled as he realized these were not myths, but living beings, punished before his eyes. The journey did not stop. With every ascent, the beauty became more awe-inspiring and the dread more unbearable. At each level, Enoch's mortal mind strained to comprehend what he was witnessing. The angels' voices grew solemn, warning him again, "These secrets are not for all men. They are revealed to you because you have walked with God." And then the heavens opened wider still. He was brought into a realm so vast it stretched beyond vision. The skies were crystal, blazing like glass against the fire beneath, and the very foundations of creation seemed to lie exposed. He could see the courses of the stars, the boundaries of the seas, the winds that circle the earth, secrets of the universe, how the cosmos was ordered, were unveiled before his eyes. But the journey had only begun. For even above this, a throne waited. A throne that no man had yet seen. And as Enoch was drawn higher still, he understood. Every level was stripping away his human limits, preparing him for a sight that would shatter everything he thought he knew about life, about angels, about God himself. Enoch's ascent did not lead him into peace. It led him into terror. For as he rose through the realms of heaven, his eyes were opened to sights no mortal had ever dared imagine. The first of these visions was not beauty, but judgment. His escorts led him into vast caverns that seemed to stretch without end, their walls dripping with black fire. The air itself was heavy with the stench of burning sulfur. Every sound echoed endlessly, as though the rocks themselves remembered the screams of ages past. And in those pits, Enoch saw them. The mighty ones who had fallen, angels, bound, but their chains were not of iron or steel. They were living flame, coiled around their limbs like serpents of fire, tightening with every attempt to move. Their bodies shuddered in agony, their faces once radiant, now twisted beyond recognition. They writhed, voices thunderous yet broken. Their cries shook the caverns like earthquakes, a chorus of despair that pierced Enoch's soul. Some begged the Most High for mercy. Others pleaded with Enoch himself. "You are a man, a son of Adam. Intercede for us. Speak on our behalf." Their voices rose in desperate waves, crashing against him like a storm. Enoch trembled, unable to answer. What could he say to those who had once stood in heaven's glory? What could he offer to those who had traded light for corruption? His heart burned with terror and sorrow. These were not mere demons. These were watchers, angels who had chosen to descend, who had broken their place to take what was not theirs. They had whispered forbidden knowledge to mankind. They had corrupted the earth. And now, here they lay, awaiting judgment. Enoch's escort spoke, their words like thunder striking stone. These are the watchers. They await the day of final fire. If angels could fall so far, what chance does man have, unless he walks in righteousness? Enoch's knees nearly gave way. He understood then, judgment is not distant, not abstract. It is real, it is waiting, and even the mighty are not spared. Yet his journey did not end there. From caverns of fire, Enoch was lifted into brilliance. His eyes were nearly blinded as he was brought before structures that defied all mortal understanding. Before him stood palaces, not of stone, nor wood, nor anything of earth, but of impossible substance. Their walls shimmered like solid ice, yet from within poured a flame that never burned away. Fire and frost danced together in perfect harmony, each reflecting the other, light and darkness woven like a tapestry of living creation. Enoch staggered, unable to grasp what his eyes beheld. Every hall shifted as though alive, angles folding in on themselves, shapes collapsing into new shapes, light bending into colors he had never seen. He struggled for words, but words were too small. Human language collapsed beneath the weight of such a vision. He whispered, almost in despair, What are these places?" And the angels at his side leaned close, their voices soft as wind, yet heavy as eternity. "These are not the palaces of men. These are the dwellings of the righteous, built before the foundations of the world." Enoch's spirit shook. These halls were eternal, waiting for those chosen to inherit them. It was glory beyond imagination, a mystery hidden from the eyes of men. And still higher he was taken. At last he was brought to the center of it all, the throne. Its foundation was lightning, white fire that poured in endless streams. From beneath it flowed rivers, not of water, but of flame, rushing like torrents of living fire into eternity. The sound of those rivers was like 1,000 thunders crashing in unison. Around the throne stood choirs of angels uncountable. Some shone like stars, their bodies radiant as suns. Others burned like torches, their wings unfurled in blinding arcs of light. Their voices joined as one, shaking the heavens with a hymn too vast, too pure for mortal ears. Enoch quaked, every fiber of his being overwhelmed. The light was too bright, the sound too heavy, his frame was too frail. And yet he was held upright, for he had been chosen to see. Then came the silence. The angelic voices hushed. The rivers of fire stilled. Even the lightning froze mid-flash, as if creation itself dared not breathe. Stars in the distant skies seemed to pause. Galaxies bowed in stillness. Time bent inward, folding upon itself. It was not mere quiet. It was the suspension of all reality, as though the universe held its breath for the presence to come. Enoch's chest heaved, pressed by the weight of that silence. His eyes widened as the angels turned to him, their faces grave, their voices lowered to a whisper. "This is the throne of the Most High. Prepare yourself, Son of Man, for the one you are about to see is beyond all." The silence deepened, heavier than death. The very air trembled. And Enoch knew. He stood at the edge of the unseeable, the unspeakable, the holy itself. The suspense was unbearable. Would his eyes behold God himself? Would he survive what no mortal flesh was meant to endure? The stage was set. The silence cracked. The presence drew near. And in that instant, Enoch's soul stood ready to meet the uncreated light. Enoch, still trembling from the blinding glory of the throne, was led further, this time not into halls of fire or choirs of angels, but into the very architecture of creation itself. He was shown chambers vast as galaxies, where the foundations of the universe were carved and measured. Angels stood like watchmen at the edges of infinity, their hands upon wheels within wheels of radiant light. Enoch beheld the calendars of heaven, the great order of days, months, and years, far older and far truer than the reckoning of men. The angel guide spoke. "Here are the storehouses of the sun and the moon. Here are the gates through which the stars march in their appointed seasons. Here is the measure of time itself, written before the world began." Enoch gazed in wonder. He saw the circuits of the constellations, their paths drawn like rivers of fire across the black ocean of space. He saw the winds stored in heavenly treasuries, each released by command at its appointed hour. He saw the deep springs beneath the earth, rising and falling at the nod of the Most High. It was a vision not of chaos, but of absolute order, a universe governed by precision beyond human thought. And, in that order, Enoch understood, was the fingerprint of God himself. But then, the vision darkened. The angel's tone grew heavy. "Look closer, Son of Man. Not all will remain as you see it now." And suddenly, Enoch was shown water. Endless water, surging from the heavens above and from the earth below. He saw cities swallowed, mountains disappearing beneath waves, a world screaming under judgment. He fell to his knees. "This is the flood that is to come," the angel declared, "because the earth has been corrupted by the watchers, because violence has filled the hearts of men. Creation itself will be cleansed. But through this judgment, life will be preserved. For from your line, through Noah, salvation will be carried." Enoch's spirit quaked. To witness destruction on such a scale, yet know it was not cruelty, but justice, it was almost too much for mortal understanding. But the visions did not stop there. Beyond the flood, he was shown another time, a greater day of judgment. Thrones were set and books were opened. He saw nations gathered, the living and the dead standing before the eternal judge. Rivers of fire swept away evil, and the righteous were lifted into light. And in the shadows of this final vision, Enoch glimpsed something that would haunt mankind for ages, a Son of Man, radiant and eternal, standing at the right hand of the throne. Dominion and glory were given to him, and his kingdom would never end. The angel whispered, "This is for the last days. What you have seen will be fulfilled when the end comes, and even now the signs are moving toward it." Enoch's breath caught. He saw echoes of his visions ripple forward through time, through prophets, through revelation itself. The flood was only the beginning. A greater reckoning was yet to come, and then silence. The visions faded like mist. Enoch was left trembling, his mind filled with secrets too heavy for the earth to bear. The angel's final words thundered in his soul, "You have seen the foundations. You have seen the judgment. Speak, but only to those who will hear. For what you have witnessed is not finished, it is still unfolding." The cliffhanger was set. What Enoch saw was not merely ancient history. It was prophecy alive, reaching across millennia, warning us even now. For centuries, the visions of Enoch remained shrouded in mystery. His book, once read and revered among ancient believers, was slowly pushed to the margins of history. Today, most Bibles do not include it. Why? The truth is layered in both history and fear. In the early centuries of the church, leaders found themselves torn, picture councils gathering in candlelit halls, scrolls spread across wooden tables, the air thick with incense and argument. Some bishops rose with passion, declaring Enoch's words holy, ancient, even prophetic, pointing directly to Christ himself. Others struck back, warning of danger. They argued that his visions were too strange, too otherworldly, too filled with mysteries that might ignite heresy. How could ordinary men and women grasp images of chained angels or cosmic calendars ticking out the fate of the universe? What if false teachers twisted those mysteries into lies? Debate raged, echoing through the centuries until caution hardened into silence. The Book of Enoch was set aside, declared non-canonical, and slowly faded into obscurity, preserved only in scattered fragments and hidden manuscripts. But that silence raises a chilling question. If these visions were so dangerous, what exactly was mankind not supposed to see? Think about it. Knowledge suppressed is often knowledge feared. What if it wasn't only about theology, but about truths too staggering for the world to handle? The watchers chained in caverns of fire, their cries shaking the abyss, the secrets of creation, the movements of stars, the foundations of the earth, the laws that bind time itself. And most of all, the Son of Man, enthroned before creation, a vision pointing to a Messiah not yet born. Could these revelations have been silenced, not because they were false, but because they struck too close to the heart of divine mystery? And if so, then another question emerges. Were these visions hidden to protect us, or to keep us from awakening to something powerful? Yet history tells us something remarkable. Though kings and councils tried to bury Enoch's words, they refused to die. In far-off Ethiopia, the book remained part of their sacred canon, read by believers who would not let it vanish. In the deserts near the Dead Sea, ancient scrolls lay hidden for millennia until the 20th century, when they were uncovered, dusty, fragile, but undeniable, whispered across generations, translated in distant lands, carried like a secret flame. The Book of Enoch never truly disappeared. It lingered, waiting as though destiny itself had preserved it until the world was once again ready to hear. And so here we are, centuries later, standing face to face with the very question the early church feared. What did Enoch really see? And why was it too dangerous to tell? And now, we arrive at the most unsettling question of all. What exactly did Enoch see when he stood before the throne? Some say he saw God himself, radiant, unapproachable, burning with fire, and surrounded by rivers of living light. Others argue that what Enoch beheld was not simply the eternal, but the figure he calls the Son of Man, a being seated in glory before the foundations of the world, a figure who judges angels and nations alike. Does that sound familiar? To many, it is a direct foreshadowing of Christ, centuries before Bethlehem. The Gospels echo the same title, the Son of Man. Revelation echoes the same imagery, lightning, thunder, a throne of fire, judgment written in the stars. Could it be that what Enoch saw was the very same vision John the Revelator would later record? And if so, then we must ask, was Enoch given a glimpse of the same end times we are approaching now? Were his visions not just ancient history, but a prophetic window into the final chapters of humanity itself? Think about it. The chained watchers awaiting judgment, the flood of Noah, already foretold, the unveiling of the Son of Man,